Just give folks one more minute before they join us. But while you're here, welcome to the first webinar series from Autonom8 for hyper-automating the customer service experience with GenAI and Autonom8's platform. Let's give folks one more minute before we hand it off to the host, Ranjit, our co-founder and CTO, who will take us through this particular webinar session. We see more folks trickling in. Welcome, everyone.
I guess it's been a long weekend.
I know, and I see folks trickling in already. So we'll probably get started, Ranjit. So welcome, everyone, once again. Glad that you folks could join us. And I hope you find this session very engaging and insightful for all the beautiful features that we're going to showcase in this demo for Autonom8 Studio. This session is primarily focused on showing how to hyper-automate your customer service experience with GenAI and Autonom8. This session will be led by our co-founder and CTO, Ranjit Padmanabhan. Over to you, Ranjit, and all the best.
Thanks, Ranga. So are you guys able to see my screen? Everyone able to see my screen? Can you verify that, Ranga?
Yes, we are able to see your screen. Yeah.
So thanks everyone for making time after a long weekend to come and join this webinar. So for most of you, good morning, and for any of you in different time zones, good day or good night. So my name is Ranjit Padmanabhan, and I'm the CTO of Autonom8. So what I wanted to do today was to just share with you some of our capabilities. I'll start with spending a couple of minutes on describing what we do here at Autonom8. And then, but the bulk of the session will be focused on the topic, which is how we can use GenAI to automate the customer service experience. We often, I guess, synonymous with BPO. So I'll just get going. So, oops, okay. So let me get into into presentation mode. So I'll start by describing what we do at Autonom8. Our slogan is hyper-automating the customer, is to enable the autonomous enterprise. And the idea here is that in very much the same way that you saw the evolution of vehicles to becoming autonomous, where they had intelligence, the ability to make decisions, the ability for man and machine to function together, and all of that. We want to bring many of those same principles into enterprises. So we've called that the autonomous enterprise. Like Ranga introduced, today the focus is on how we can use GenAI to hyper-automate customer support. So let me take a step back and describe kind of at a high level, the architecture of the Autonom8 platform. And we'll focus on one piece of it today, which is kind of the front end part of it. But if you take a step back and look at workflows in general, if you look at any customer journey, any workflow that is deployed in service of a customer's requirements, there's broadly three important pieces in that. On the front end, you have what we call the intake piece, where a customer comes in and communicates to the enterprise what they want. This could be something as simple as IT help desk request, or it could be something as complicated as applying for a loan. So there's a wide variety of these customer journeys that the intake process needs to support. And in our platform, we provide the tools for you as an enterprise to create these intake mechanisms. These can be through many different channels, through many different modes, so as indicated here, you can connect through chat, and you can connect through text and SMS, web, mobile, voice, text, all of those kinds of things. So on the intake side, you can have kind of either what we call a virtual channel through like a chatbot, or a live channel like a contact center. Now, once the information from the customer has been received by the back end, we have a powerful business process management engine that is used to fulfill this customer's request. So this is kind of the workhorse of our platform. It's backend workflow, enterprise workflow automation. And, we provide a really powerful capability that uses BPM kind of as the underlying technology and gives you the ability to create all of these customer journeys on the back end. So for example, if someone's applying for a loan, on the front end, they'll use the intake mechanism to give you the information. And on the back end, you can put together all the orchestration that's required, all the, credit officer and sales officer and appraiser and all of these different people. All of these people with different roles can come together to fulfill this particular workflow. So we give you all the tools to create this using kind of a low-code paradigm where you can drag and drop different boxes in our A8 Studio application to build and deploy these workflows. And on the back end, when you have these workflows, they generally integrate with a whole bunch of different tools like CRM, ticketing, banking, and so on. Once your workflow or your customer journey is deployed, we also provide a real-time analytics infrastructure that allows you to focus on different pieces of the customer's journey, figure out where they're having success, where they're not, and how you can continuously improve this customer journey over time. So this is kind of the big picture of what our platform is. So let me shift gears now to talking about how generative AI plays in as part of our platform. For this webinar, I'm going to focus a lot on the intake side of this architecture and focus very much on a use case that is centered around customer support. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk about a few different high-level ways in which generative AI benefits BPOs. So it benefits customers by giving them, all the convenience they need, many different channels to come and interact. It gives them conversational capabilities, so intelligent, chat and things of that nature, and you'll see a lot of that in the demos that I'll show you. On the agent side, when an agent is assisting, there's some administrative work that they have to do in terms of summarizing the call and all of that. And then there's also the actual work of helping the customer. And we provide tools that can assist the agent during the call by leveraging all the knowledge that's been created and giving them suggestions on what they should tell the customer. And then finally, as more and more calls go through your call center and go through the platform, there's what we call continuous learning and the ability for you to improve the quality of the knowledge that you have in your enterprise, as you move forward. The goal being that over time, as more and more customers come in, they're able to resolve their inquiries without needing an agent for assistance. So on this slide, I've kind of shown the different modules of our platform. Like I explained, we have a few modules on the front end. You can have a conversational experience. You can build an app-like experience with a tool called A8 Solo. We have what I call a lightweight contact center application. And then on the back end, we have BPM, our low-code builder, and a whole collection of analytics tools. For today's discussion, I'm going to focus on the front end. So just to be clear again, the focus is on front-end conversational platform used for customer support. So now I'm going to kind of drill down into the specific topic of the webinar. So if you look at BPO, it's been a somewhat manually oriented endeavor with agents helping customers and not necessarily having a completely mechanized and learning capability to provide a better experience for customers over time. Now, with the advent of GPT and technologies like that, we see that there's a big opportunity to have a paradigm shift when it comes to BPO capabilities. And now everyone has experimented with using OpenAI and using tools like that and made API calls and been amazed at the quality of response you get from them. But the reality is that in order to actually deploy GPT in a real enterprise setting, it needs to be bundled with a lot of infrastructure that enables the tool to be enterprise friendly, with all the guardrails for security and learning and integration with different tools and all of that. So we put together a bundle specifically for BPO, and here's kind of a high-level summary of the features. So the first one, obviously, is you leverage the capability of GPT both for search and for response. So when anyone comes in with a question, you can actually search your knowledge base, get the data you need, and then you can formulate a nice user-friendly response that you can send back to them. The second point is that these conversations can be made personalized. They can be made contextual. People can ask follow-up questions. The third one is, if you detect that at some point the conversational AI is not meeting the needs of the customer, you have the ability to push the conversation to an agent who can assist. GPT is a generalized technology. So tools like ChatGPT operate on general knowledge that's available, sort of globally. And so they can answer general questions. So we have the ability to create customized versions of GPT that are customized to your content. This could be, public-facing chatbots that are customized based on your website, or internal-facing chatbots that are customized based on internal documents. As you use these GPTs and these LLM models more and more, you'll find that cost becomes an interesting factor. The standard pricing paradigm for these LLMs is based on tokens. And if you start asking a lot of questions that have long answers, you'll find that your token consumption gets high very quickly, and you're paying a large amount to use these LLMs. And then every time you ask a question, you want the ability for this, for the response that comes back from your model to be subject to curation if you need. So you need the ability to integrate with a curation workflow, which I've kind of shown here. But you also need the ability to, if there is a really good response, to keep it so that you can reuse that response in the future. And then there's a couple of other features around using, rule-based approaches to dealing with specific types of queries, and putting guardrails in place to ensure accuracy, to ensure scope, and things like that. So this is kind of a full-featured bundle that is available right now with the Autonom8 platform. So with that, enough of talking, and I'm going to jump into demos. So the first demo I'm going to show you is what we call the travel assistant. So let me just talk a little bit about this before I get into it.
And Ranjit, sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to quickly point out to the group that feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A module. We would keep ample time at the end of the session to answer these. So please keep posting your questions there, and we'll get to it by the end of the session. Thank you. Over to you, Ranjit.
Yeah, thanks, Ranga. Good point. I think under normal conditions, I wouldn't mind if people had questions in the middle of my presentation. But since we have a larger audience this time, it probably makes sense to move everything to a Q&A at the end. So make note of your questions. So the first demo I'm going to show you is what we call a travel assistant. In this, what we've done is set up a custom version of GPT that is built on a specific website. And in this case, we picked the Lonely Planet travel website. All of the data is unstructured and it is public. The objective of this chat experience is to give informational responses to customers who have questions about travel. In this case, we are using GPT 3.5. And one of the main reasons is that the answers are long. They have lots of tokens. And so we make a trade-off of whether I should pay a lot more to use GPT-4, which has incrementally better quality in some cases, or save a lot of money by using GPT 3.5. And under the hood, the technology that we use is something that some of you may be familiar with. It's called retrieval augmented generation. What this means is that when we send the question to OpenAI GPT 3.5, we're actually accompanying it with some contextual information that we get from a search process. And I'll kind of explain that as we go forward. So let's get into the demo itself right now. So I'm going to put these other windows down for a second. I'll keep this window open because we'll probably come back to it. And I'm going to talk to this travel assistant. So the travel assistant, like I said, has been built with public data from the lonelyplanet.com website. And every time someone asks a query, so I'm going to type in my first query here. I'm just going to copy and paste from another document. So when I ask this first query, what's happening is that we'd run a search for information to get some fragments of information from the lonelyplanet.com website initially. And then we use that to create a prompt that we then send to GPT 3.5. The benefit here is that you may have heard the term grounding. And we use grounding to ensure that the GPT does not come back with misinformation or, as some of you may have heard, hallucinations. So you ground the the engine, the model, by feeding it some information that's authoritative. And then based on that, it uses, of course, its capability to generate a nice looking response in terms of all of the reasons about the best time to visit Italy and all of that. In addition, we also come back and give you a link to the specific page, the top ranking page on the site from which a lot of this information was provided. So we tie it on both ends to make sure that the information is good and accurate. I have a few more queries that I'm going to punch into this chatbot. In this case, I said, do I need a visa? Now, technically, this is a follow-up question. And I'm not, in most chatbots, this question will not be recognized because, the system won't know, visa, what you're talking about. But in this case, we happen to know that since the previous question was about Italy, we can preserve the context through different, through multiple questions. You can do it with unstructured content. You can do this to some extent, but you can do it much better with structured content, as I'll show you in a subsequent demo. And then I say, and to visit Morocco, which means, again, since contextually in my mind, I'm talking about visas, the real question is, do I need a visa to visit Morocco? That's the question that's being asked. And here, I'm able to get a good response to it. So we maintain the context and we're able to give a sensible response to this. I'm going to start with a kind of a new line of questioning. And this is, about what are the best travel destinations for older people. This is almost, the tool almost has to write an essay for me on this. And as you can see, it does a pretty good job. This is a general query. And in response to the general query, it gave me useful information that it collected from the pages of lonelyplanet.com. And in addition, as before, it gave me, a link that it thought would be most effective or most relevant to the content that was displayed. So I'm going to now get into a couple of specific questions. About historic lighthouses in California. Again, I'm not going to say a whole lot about this. It's just that, the tool does a good job of understanding what I want and pulling information from different pages to construct a response. All of these responses I have requested be kind of more lengthy and informative. In the next demo, you'll notice that I've requested very precise responses. This is another example of a very specific question, but it's sort of a multi-part question. And you'll see that I asked about Lal Bagh Botanical Gardens and a bunch of questions about it, and you'll notice that the system responded with to each of my questions properly. Okay, so now I'm going to pick. I'm typing in a question that says, your website gave me incorrect advice and now I'm stuck in Tunisia. This is an actual complaint from someone on the lonelyplanet.com website. And to showcase this a little bit better, I'm going to log in. On the left side of my screen, this is our A8 Live product, and I'm going to log in and make myself available as an agent. So in this, when this query is typed in, what happens is that the system under the hood detects that there is a negative sentiment associated with this. And then what it does is it gives me kind of a generic response, but automatically transfers me to a live agent. So now, rather than me talking to the virtual agent, you'll see that I'm talking to the live agent. So in this manner, what happens is that based on, in this case, sentiment, it could also be based on if the chat bot doesn't understand, it'll transfer me automatically to a live agent. But in this case, we use sentiment as the trigger. And so I just wanted to show you how that works. I'm not going to say anything meaningful, but I'm going to transfer the chat back. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do here now is show you a different capability. So let me just reset this conversation. I'm going to go back to the travel assistant. And I'm going to show a capability where you can bypass GPT and create your own rules. In this case, you can think of this as being kind of an upsell rule. So the question that the user asks is, what is the easiest way for me to apply for a visa?
Yep. Sorry to interrupt you, Ranjit. The audience, one of the members in the audience is asking if you could probably zoom in a bit, especially into the chat window, I believe. So,
okay.
Because it's not so legible. Yeah.
Is that better?
I think it looks better. We will wait to hear from that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I've just increased the size of the font. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay. So now in this case, when the user asks for how to apply for a visa, let's say as a company, let's say I'm Lonely Planet, and I have a deal with VFS. And VFS, as you know, are the well-known visa processors. So what we do is we set up a rule that says anytime someone asks about a visa, I want to show them the visa at your doorstep capability that VFS Global provides. So in this case, we've created a rule to bypass GPT and then just show you can think of this as an ad or a sponsored link or something of that nature. But that's what we're showing here. Hopefully this is the font size is a little bit better now. And finally, I'm going to close with a question that's completely out of scope. And again, the reason is to show you here that we can set guardrails on the scope of the chatbot, so that anytime there's a question that's outside of scope, it'll respond and say that, look, please restrict your questions to a particular topic. Okay. So this was demo number 1. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint and show you demo number 2, which is using structured data. And in this case, I'm going to be talking to, I have information in a database, in a Postgres database. This is private data. This is retail information about customers and products and orders and things like that. And the objective here is to have precise responses to specific customer queries. In this, I'm using the OpenAI GPT-4 as my backend. Since there's a fewer number of tokens, I'm not spending a huge amount of money. And then the approach we're using here is a combination of generating SQL on the fly and what we call it's broadly prompt engineering, but the idea is to create dynamic prompts based on the questions that the users are asking. And again, I'm just giving for those of you who are technically minded, you may find this interesting. So let me reset the conversation here, and I'm going to connect to the retail assistant. Let me see if I can increase the size of this window. Okay, that's better actually. Okay, so hopefully this window is a good size now. Okay, so for the retail assistant, the way we've set up the demo is that the demo asks me to give the name of a random customer, but in this case, I'm going to ask, get the name of a specific customer who I know has certain buying certain data so that I can have a predictable flow for the demo. So I'm introducing myself as Joan Kozak. And now what I'm going to do is show you another screen that shows you the back end of this database to describe what's in the database. So here we have a database which has customers. And in this database, we have about 37,000 customers, about 500,000 orders, and about 1 million items that have been ordered. There are about 2,500 products and 7,700 stores. So this is the information in the database. And let me go into full screen mode here. And I'm going to just show you the real information in the database about this this particular person, so that you can see what so that you have context when I type in these questions. So these are all the orders that Joan Kozak has made. The most recent order had an order date of 23rd of October. This shows the ship date. So anything with a ship date, estimated ship date has not been shipped. Anything with an estimated delivery date has not been delivered. This shows, there were 4 items in this order. This was the quantity. These were the items that were ordered, and it describes each of these items in terms of color and size and price and all of that. So just keep this in mind as I ask, as I'm going to be Joan Kozak, and I'm going to ask a few questions. So let me type in first question. When will my most recent order be shipped? Unlike the previous example, in this case, you really don't need long answers. You need very precise answers. You'll see that there's an estimated ship date of 10/27, and the tool was able to actually pull this off. Let me ask the next question. Again, I'm sorry for the delay. I'm copying and pasting from a different page here. Oops. When will it be delivered? There's an estimated ship date of 11/02. Again, this is, sorry for the American style dates. So you'll see that it's able to maintain the context that I'm talking about the most recent order, and it's able to tell me when that's going to be shipped. So now, let's say I come in and say something like, oh no, I have to attend a wedding on that day. Now, to a normal chatbot, this makes no sense. But if you think about it in the terms of a conversation, what I'm really implying is that on that day, I won't be around for the order to be delivered. So to handle situations like this, the chatbot needs to have some sort of inferencing or reasoning capability. And as you can see, the chatbot was able to do that. And based on what I said, it was able to figure out that I wanted to reschedule my shipment. I'm not going to get into the rescheduling, but I just wanted to show that we have this inferencing capability as well. Okay. So I'm asking what is in the order, and let me come back here to the screen. You'll see that in the order there is, there are 4 items: a Fabricam, Contoso, theater, and a bunch of different things like that. And as you can see, the system was able to pull this, and this is basically the ability to do data itemization, by running a SQL query in the backend. How much did I pay? And now this information is not available in the database. It requires the engine to actually compute based on the quantity and the price. The engine actually needs to compute and add up the total pricing and tell me the total that I paid. Okay. Again, going back. Again, to show that I'm maintaining context. So I asked this question like 7 questions ago, and I'm still able to maintain context. Let me ask another question. So, so here we, we don't. I'm just asking questions that are out of scope for the chatbot, and it's not able to provide any answers on it. So I just wanted to show you that. How many orders have I placed so far? And it gives me the proper number and things like that. So this hopefully gives you an idea of our capability to ask very specific questions from a retail database. Creating something like this, I should also say that to create the first web based chatbot took us 2 or 3 days. Creating something like this, if we have access to your database and your schema, we can build a chatbot, an intelligent chatbot based on your data within 3 to 5 days. So I'm going to see if there are any other interesting questions that I can ask. Let's see. Okay. Let me ask this, and this is basically to do, if you're familiar with SQL, to kind of get the maximum value from a particular column. And if you look at the pricing, so it looks like this is the pricing column. 600 is probably the highest price that we have, so it's done a good job. In addition, it told me when I bought these items as well. And then I'll close with kind of a question that's a little bit hard, because even writing a SQL query here for this is hard, because you have to do some sort of aggregation and grouping. So what categories of products have I purchased? You'll see that for all the products, there's a category column here. So the system is able to tell me and do kind of a grouping of all of this data and give me a summary of what I've purchased. I'm going to try a couple of things here, which is to see if I can break the privacy guidelines. I'm trying to ask and see if I can figure out what other people have bought, but the system has these privacy guidelines built into it, so it's not able to violate any. It tells me that I cannot violate the privacy guidelines and give you information that's outside of what you have purchased. And then I'm going to ask a totally out of scope question, and the system should respond that, I'm not able to do this because this is out of scope for me. So this sort of concludes. Okay, let me check here. Okay, so we're doing okay on time.
Yeah,
okay,
so we're doing okay on time, and I will send out a nudge when it's getting closer.
Okay, great. So I showed you this one. I showed you this demo. The third one I want to show you is something that's a little bit different.
And before you get started with the third demo, Ranjit, just wanted to check if the audience is doing better when it comes to being able to make out the sequence of events on screen. Would you like it to be a little more larger? Because there are a couple of windows at the same time. If you could just give me a thumbs up or answer in the Q&A, that would be great.
Okay. So so this this demo that I'm going to show you, hopefully it's not chat based, so it should, the visibility should be better.
Perfect. You could go ahead. There seems to be no response. I would assume no news is good news.
Yeah. Okay, great. So this demo I'm going to show you is what we call field extraction. And let me explain what we do here. So what we have is we're using email as a channel, and we have the ability for a user, let's say this is your customer who wants to send you an invoice or a bank statement or something like that. This customer can send you a PDF document on email. And what we can do is we can extract specific fields from this email and automatically fill them into a form on the back end. For this, we're using, what we call, we're using the Google Palm 2 model, and the Palm 2, you can say LLM, and within that specifically the text bison model. And the approach here is somewhat a little bit more traditional, where we're using just a vector store with embeddings and things like that to extract the fields from this PDF document. So let me show you this demo. And for this, what I'm going to do, don't need all these windows. I'm just going to go to this window where I've logged in as a, as a particular user. I'm going to compose an email to our email gateway, and I'm going to say something like, here is my invoice, and I'm going to attach a file, sample invoice, open, and send it. So here, I'm just a regular user, and I'm sending a sample invoice by email. So I'm going to send this. And now on the back end, I wanted to show you what we do with these incoming invoices. So we have a backend process that looks at incoming invoices, and then it extracts the fields from them. So it analyzes the invoice and extracts the fields and puts them into a form. And I just wanted to show you what that form looks like. So let me just log in on the back end. I should see the form coming in. Let me just log out and log back in just to make sure I have the right data. And I'm going to click on all tasks. And you'll see that a few seconds ago, a new task came up to me at the back end. So this task has been triggered by someone emailing an invoice. So when I click on this task, you'll see that this contains a bunch of details on the invoice. And I'm going to just show you what the invoice looks like so that you have an idea. So this is the sample invoice. So it's able to, pick up the customer name, the item, which is brochure design, the amount of the IGST, the amount of the invoice, assess, and all of these kinds of things. So it's an automated way for customers to mail you structured documents, and then you can actually look at them. You can actually extract the information and save a lot of time by having them stored in the back end. You can do many different things like this. You can auto-populate forms. You can auto-populate CRMs. You can auto-populate ticketing systems like ServiceNow, and things of that nature. So you can do a whole bunch of interesting things with this field extract. I'll show you another example here, where as the user, same user is going to send another document. And in this case, here is my bank statement. And I'm going to attach the bank statement.
And Ranjit, just to let the audience know that there are questions already coming in the Q&A section, but we're going to answer them parked at the end, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have another maybe 5 minutes of demo, and then I can get to the questions.
Perfect.
Okay. So I'm going to attach. Oh, I already did that. Sorry. Okay. So I'm going to send the bank statement. Just to show you how things work on the back end, we have an email handler that is looking for incoming emails. I'm waiting for a new email to show up now. Again, rather than just have you guys wait, I thought it's useful to show you what's going on behind the scenes. So we have an email gateway that receives the bank statement. And then when I click on the bank statement, it shows me that it's actually sent it to the back end here. So again, I'm just showing you some of the under the hood pieces, just in case you're interested. Now let me come back here. So here I am waiting, and I got my previous document about 3 minutes ago. I'm just going to refresh this page. By the way, this is all training data and things like that. So I'm not exposing any confidential information to you. So you'll notice that a new task came in a few seconds ago. And in this case, what we've done is we've recognized that this is a bank statement, and I'm going to show you what that bank statement looks like. And by the way, this is something we've taken and modified so that there's no confidential information. But this bank statement has a lot of details. And this, so for example, I'm asking for salary credit. And you'll notice that there's nothing obvious about salary credits except something that's buried deep down in the document somewhere. Hopefully I'll find it. That shows that there's a salary credit of 12.6K somewhere here. So I'll I'll look for, okay, let me just do. Okay. PDF search is slow. Okay, here. So you'll notice that there's a bulk posting by salary of 12.6K, and we were able to actually identify that in this large table and extract it and put it into a field. Likewise, we can, sorry about the, the column width here, but what we have is the ability to extract information from pretty complex documents and auto-populate these fields with them. So that's one thing. And then the last item I wanted to show you was the capability for us to actually read documents, read PDF documents, and run searches on them. So what I've done is I've taken a collection of Hyundai manuals and created a simple chatbot against which you can ask questions. I'm going to show you what the manual looks like. And again, this is just an illustration of our ability to take PDF documents. I showed you structured data. I showed you website content, but I also wanted to show you a simple capability with PDF. So again, I'm just going to copy and paste a couple of questions here. And this is something that's on page 363. So evasive steering assist function is described here, and you'll see that we talk about the evasive steering assist function. I'm also going to ask a follow-up question. Does it work for pedestrians? And it says, it works for pedestrians. It helps avoid collisions with vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists in the same lane. So you can see that this information is from this PDF document. Let me try one more question here. I'm going to ask a new question. I'm going to go to page 117, where this is from. And we can talk about adjusting the front seat headrests and things like that. And you'll see that this information is available from this page. I'm going to ask a couple of follow-up questions here. Can I recline the seat back toward the front? And it says, yes, you can do this. And how it tells me how you can do this based on the information that's in this document somewhere on this page. But I can ask a even more, you can say, specific question. What happens if I do this when my headrest is raised? So I want to specifically point out this situation where if I raise the headrest and move my seat in front, then it can actually hit the windshield or the visor or something like that. So it says if you recline the seat back with the head restraint, it may come in contact with the sun visor or other parts of the vehicle. Again, this is just very illustrative. I just wanted to show you the ability to look at many different types of documents. And this kind of concludes what I wanted to show you from a demo perspective. How are we doing on time, Ranga?
We're doing pretty good on time. In fact, we wrapped up in 45 minutes.
Okay.
Would you want to take up the questions, or are you?
Yeah, I just want to go. I'm going to spend 2 minutes on a few, just to make 2 or 3 key points here. I'm going to come back to my deck here, and I wanted to talk about broadly, how you operate or how you operationalize LLMs. It's okay to have your teams, experiment with LLMs and things, but when you actually think of operationalizing them and putting them in your enterprise, you have to. There are many factors that you have to think of. So I wanted to lay out a definition here. If you can see this on the PowerPoint, in investing, there is a concept called efficient frontier. What this means is that you keep adjusting your portfolio so that you maximize your return for a fixed or a lower amount of risk. So you can do that, and you want to kind of do the same thing with LLMs. So we are building similar to to what they do in investing. We're building an efficient frontier idea for LLMs that will continuously balance 4 variables: security, cost, quality, and speed. Now, you might say, security, you always want security, but that's not necessarily the case. If you're just looking at public data, you really don't care that much about security. But obviously, if you're looking at human data, personal data, you care a huge amount about security. And so, again, I wanted to talk, we have a bunch of different techniques like text redaction. If someone types in, a credit card number or any other personal information, that gets redacted from any string that is sent to the third-party engine. We also use a technique, and I want to introduce this term to all of you because it's a very cool idea, which is called homomorphic encryption. What this really means is that rather than send data, so rather than send my name Ranjit Padmanabhan to a third-party engine who will know that I exist, I'll change my name to something else. I'll change my age to something else, and I'll change my zip code to something else. So homomorphic means something that looks the same as before, but has a different form. And so it's like creating aliases. So you create a whole bunch of aliases that you send to the third-party engine. And then when the data comes back, you remap the alias back to your actual identity. And so what you've done is you've prevented information from leaking to the third-party system. Again, I won't go too deeply into this deck, but I wanted to talk about that specific point. And finally, cost just keeps adding up. So we have many different techniques to keep costs low. So for example, if you like a response that comes back from an LLM, we can cache it. So you can start caching it and you don't have to go back to the LLM someone asks anytime someone asks the same question. Under normal customer support situations, you have what we call the long tail. So there's probably 50 to 100 questions that people are asking all the time. And if you just cache good responses to those questions, either from an LLM or maybe even human curated, then you don't need to go incur the cost of calling a third-party, tool. So I'll that's all I wanted to say about that. And so I'm ready to take questions now.
Awesome. Thank you, Ranjit. And actually, the first question might seem like a good segue into what you just described at the last.
Okay.
As what is the skill set required to develop such pods? I don't know who submitted this, but
Yeah.
I hope you could provide additional clarity if required. But Ranjit, could you answer that first question if you can?
Yeah. I think so. To be honest, the person most when you create a bot, there's basically 2 things. One is the flow, the content, and for that, it's the business user can create these things. Let me show you what the tool looks like. It's it looks a little bit crazy when you look at it initially, but I want to guarantee that it's so when you create chat dialogues, this is what it looks like. You can drag and drop these different blocks to tie together the different pieces of your dialogue. And most of the dialogues are business friendly. So a human can, not a human, a business person can actually go and create these dialogues. But anytime you need an integration, so let's say you want to integrate with Salesforce, you might need IT help. Now, we try and address that problem by giving you a whole bunch of connectors right up front. So you can just use the existing connectors. Or if you then need to create an integration with a tool that we don't have a connector for, you will need IT help. And someone would go to the back end on a tool like this. And they'll have to write what we call services. And these services are just, for example, they look like this. They are templatized, but they need a little bit of knowledge of JavaScript. So kind of a long answer to the question. Hopefully it was useful.
Sure. I hope that answers the question. I wouldn't know who asked that. So if you're listening, if you can let us know if that answered the question or you have a follow-up to that one, please let us know. The next question is from Alex, and this mainly to the Morocco use case that you talked about.
Yeah.
He asks if that is just about the visa or was it about what could you do there? When I see the question. I believe it's about asking what could you do in Morocco if you're allowed permissible stay there. Alex, let me know if I framed your question correctly.
Yeah. So when I did the demo,
yeah.
When I did the demo, it was specifically about visas. I was using that as a follow-up question. So let me just try and answer that really quickly. So when I started up this travel assistant, I started out with a few questions about Italy, and then I said, do I need a visa? So actually it's worth playing this back again because this is interesting. So I ask a question about what is the best time of the year to visit Italy, which is fine. This is a fully formed question. So the system is able to understand that and ask a question about it. And then the second question I asked is, do I need a visa? Now, the implication here is that since I've already asked about Italy, that context is, whether I need a visa to visit Italy. I mean, we need to understand the context to answer this question. And as you can see, we do that. The third question I asked was, and to visit Morocco. So because I asked about a visa in my previous question, this next question is about whether I need a visa to visit Morocco. I mean, this is conversational style. And so when I showed you the demo, that's what I was showing, the ability to preserve context. And in this case, it'll give you a long answer about, all you need to do. Travelers from these countries don't need visas, and then, a whole bunch of things about that. So, but if you want to have a specific
and Ranjit, if it's possible, would you just mind increasing the size of this window, or you could minimize the other window too, so that this stays center stage?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it talks about, all the different. Oh, you know what? In this case, I should have switched context. So let me see. Okay. Is this visible? Hopefully.
This is.
Yeah. So I can ask just a direct question on what activities I can do in Morocco, or or I can ask it as a follow-up question. So all of these are possible. Generally speaking, we do a reasonable job where anytime you're using these informational responses, the follow-ups are a little bit tricky. So what we do is we focus on just giving the best, the full responses. Or like I showed in the other demo, we can specifically say, are you asking a follow-up question or are you asking a new question? And then the user can, supply the information they need. Sorry, long answer, Alex. Sorry about that, but hopefully it was useful.
No, Alex also had a follow-up question, and I believe this is for the case where you talked about the orders for Joanne. And his question is about the neighbor asked, could you provide a name that exists in the database? I think it is mainly to find out if you know your neighbor and if you would probably want to ask about them.
Yeah, I can ask, but so let me try that. I don't know if I know any neighbors, but let me ask. Let me try something here. I haven't tried that. So this is all live and dangerous thing for me to do in a demo, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to go in as Joan M. Kozak. And I'm going to ask, what did Michelle purchase? And I'm going to pray that it does the right thing. Okay, good. Yeah. So Michelle is a legitimate, these are all legitimate customers in the database. And so as you can see, it prevents Joan's inquiries from asking about what Michelle purchased.
Awesome. I hope that answers your question, Alex. Let us know if you have any follow-ups on that one. I'm moving on to the next one from Gunjan. The question is, can the system also capture and extract unstructured data, like something which is handwritten on a physical account opening form in a bank?
Yeah, it can do that. There's a limit to what it can do. So in this case, so what I did was I was able to extract PDF from documents, but this was actually text PDF. Now, let's say there's an image. We have the ability to do OCR on images and extract text. But if it's really badly handwritten or something like that, the quality of the results will be poor. But we do have an OCR engine, and we have the ability. We have some other tools that can, for example, do OCR on images of ID cards like Aadhaar card, PAN card, and things like that. Pull information and stick it into the into your flows and into your forms and things of that nature. So yeah, so not a very specific answer, Gunjan. Sorry about that, but it really varies by quality. And one more thing I'll point out is that for example, signature matching and tools of that nature, those are kind of hard because it's really hard to get enough accuracy to make the tool useful. So I'll just throw that out there also.
Awesome. I hope that answers your question, Gunjan. We're moving on to the next one. I believe it was asked at a point in time during the presentation, and it's anonymous, so I wouldn't know whom to direct this query to, but they asked, is there a way one could try this? So I don't know what this question means specifically to which point in the presentation, but I will let them post a follow-up. There's another question about where are these LLMs hosted and how is the data that we share with these LLMs secure?
Okay. So in in the demos that I showed you, let me go back and show my PowerPoint. So we used 3 different LLMs. Now, just to clarify, the Autonom8 platform runs inside Google Cloud. So any of the Google assets that we use don't leave the cloud perimeter. We have a capability to do some of the work within our own cluster. So it doesn't even get into Google's hands. But anytime we want to use some of their bigger models like the TextBison 32K, it goes outside of our cluster into the Google cloud, but it does not leave the Google perimeter. So we can decide if the information needs to be protected or not. And in this particular case, we did not. Now, anytime we used OpenAI GPT for Retail Assistant, we are disguising the information using that homomorphic encryption approach I described, where we're mapping names to different names. So the actual query that the third-party engine is seeing is different from the name of the person. And then when the response comes back, I map it back to the original name of the of the customer. So in this case, we're using homomorphic encryption to masquerade the information that goes to the third-party engine. In this case, since it's public data, there's no security in that sense. All the data exactly as it is typed is sent to the third-party engine. So different levels of security for different use cases. This sort of touches on another point. I want to show this slide. So we did kind of an analysis of how you would pick an LLM for different types of use cases, and what's the quality and what's the setup cost and operating costs and things like that. There is a tendency for people to say that, look, I don't want my data going to this third-party LLM or model. I want to host it in-house. So, very obvious choices are Llama 2 and Cloud 2, which are 2 powerful open source LLMs, which is fine. But it's important to understand that the cost of running a local LLM is pretty high. And you're looking at a few $1,000s per month just to run an LLM. I mean, I'm not even talking about training your own LLM. This is taking an open source LLM and running it locally with customization. The other thing people have discovered is that when you bring an open source LLM in, you're bringing it with the assumption that it's risk-free. But if there are exploits within that LLM that people know about, those can be exploited. So it's the whole security framework is still a little bit shaky these days, but I think your best bet is to, for ease of use, to get things going immediately, work with these third-party LLMs. You keep your costs under control, understand your use case, and then over time, if you decide that you have enough traffic where ROI makes sense for you to host your own LLM, then you can do that. So, that was just a random side note. Hopefully, it was useful.
Absolutely. The next question that comes up is from Ravi. He asks, in the context of structured data sources, like in a MySQL Postgres database, could you give us guidance on how to train the model against the database if it's not confidential at this point?
Okay. Yeah. So what we do is we have a two-step process for, let's say you have some random structured database against which you want to have a chatbot. So step number one is we need to sort of understand the schema of that database. We need to understand to some extent if there are some obscure names of columns and rows like that, we'll need to understand what they mean. So step one is to create some kind of, you can say, small prompts. So what we do is, so for example, when in my database, when I typed in Joan Kozak, what we do is we actually go into the database, we actually pull some contextual information about this person and create a few different little prompts. Okay, so that's step one. So step one is to understand the database enough to create a prompt. So I can create a prompt that says Joan Kozak lives in San Jose, California, and has made 16 orders or something like that. So I create a bunch of prompts. And then the second part is when anytime I ask a query, I need to translate that into the appropriate SQL. And here the GenAI tools generally tend to do a pretty good job, but not all the time. So if I'm doing something like a complex query, like where I have to do a group and distinct or something like that, you have to be a little bit careful. So you do you assist the prompt with the SQL query, and then you can submit that to the backend. So that's a little bit vague, but I don't want to give away too much about how we do this. But the point is that if you can point us at any structured database with the schema, we'll be able to create the prompts and the SQL, and have an understanding of the SQL so that we can run these run all these different types of queries.
Thanks, Ranjit. One last question, and Ravi just commented on the answer to his question, and he said that definitely helps, Ranjit. Okay. One last question from the group, and please keep your questions coming. We have ample time to answer all of them. One last question that we have still open on the chat is, could we speak a bit about the competition? As we have covered conversational AI today, what if the customers evaluating Core.ai or Yellow.ai as platforms?
Yep. Yeah, so both Core and Yellow, my understanding is that Yellow has actually built their own foundation model. I think they've trained their own LLM, so it's completely from scratch, which is great in one way because it's it embodies all the knowledge that they have, but maybe unproven in a different way in terms of what are the vectors for attack and things like that. So it hasn't gone through the OpenAI and all of these other open source LLMs go through a lot of human punching to determine what are the weak points and things like that. So that's the issue with Yellow. Core, I know, has also embraced Gen AI, and they're a very sophisticated company. But I think they are using, as far as I know, they're using third-party LLMs. Now, all these guys can probably do something similar to us in some ways, but I think, given that we are looking at the big picture, in not just in terms of chat, we're looking at using chat as a feeder into backend workflows and things like that. I think we have a different perspective than these guys, and so we're able to offer a broader end-to-end kind of solution than Yellow or Core. But those are both great companies, and I'm honored to compete with them. Yeah, so that's kind of my comment on Yellow and Co.
Thank you. Thank you, Ranjit. And that brings us to the end of the open questions in the Q&A section. We definitely have more time to cover for any questions that comes up. So are there any more questions from the audience? Going once, going twice. All right, that's but thank you once again, Ranjit, for a very insightful session. I hope the group goes away with an impression that we are able to build all these use cases using the Autonom8 platform, and definitely would want to try this out for a spin. We also want to impress upon the audience that this is definitely not just a particular webinar occurrence. We intend to have more such sessions like these, and we will definitely introduce more such features and functionality from the platform too. Yeah. I have a response from the question with whom I could not attribute it to. So they said that this session was insightful. Alex asks us if Costa Rica was a hallucination, which came up in the demo.
It is. So it was a typo from me. I had copy pasted the wrong response. So yeah.
Awesome. Alex just responded saying thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? Any other comments? There's a flurry of thank you messages, so I'm glad that the
Great.
group found this great.
Thanks to everyone who sat through the whole hour, especially after a holiday. As you know, especially the India attendees. I really appreciate your time, and please get in touch with us if you have any more questions. We're happy to work with you, and if you have any specific customer problems, we're happy to engage with you to solve them.
Absolutely. And just as a footnote, everybody was curious to know if they could get a hand on the recording after the webinar concludes. So you'll definitely get access to the recordings right after the session. And if you're registered using an email ID, you will get an email with the download link. Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for making time. And I hope you see this as one of many more insightful sessions to follow. Have a good day, and thank you from myself, Ranjit, and Muthu from Autonom8. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Ranga. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.